Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I don't have to yell here. So welcome to our energy panel. As people come, we'll just fill them in. We're recording this. So our moderator today is Brian Barkley Sr., manager partner of Barkley and Kennedy Chartered. Barkley and Kennedy is a general practice law firm that is listed in the Bar Registry of Preeminent Law Firms, which places it in the top half of 1% of the firms in the U.S. Brian is listed in Who's Who in America Law and Super Lawyers. He chairs our Public Policy Committee and is former chair of the Rockville Chambers of Commerce. So without further ado, Brian.
Thank you, Margie. You read that exactly the way I wrote it. Thank you. Can't blow your own horn. Who's already going to blow, right, folks? So I'm going to do a little bit of that for you folks now. We have an unbelievable panel here this morning. You're going to learn some fascinating things. I've talked or listened to almost everybody here with representatives of their companies over the years. Very good information for all of you. So these representatives will talk about programs that can be useful to you to reduce the energy consumption of your property or business space and increase your business bottom line or allow you to use your capital for other business purposes. The programs offer incentives and low-cost loans to help you take on these improvements and reduce your operating costs for the long term. So we have with us this morning, Stephen Morrell, CEO of Montgomery County Green Bank. Stephen is the Chief Executive Officer of the Montgomery County Green Bank. In this role, he oversees the Green Bank's programs and financial products that are dedicated to drawing in commercial capital and accelerating the climate goals of Montgomery County. The Green Bank's mission is to unlock and amplify the benefits of clean energy, energy efficiency, and climate resilience improvements to capital providers, contractors, and most importantly, Montgomery County businesses and residents. We have Joe Tabeling from CQ Associates. Joe, welcome again. Joe is a senior associate at CQ and has been in the energy industry for over 15 years. He manages over 25 Chamber of Commerce energy cooperative programs, including ours, and over 3,500 clients. Oversees all business development in the Northeast Territory, assists with business development in Texas and Georgia, manages all corporate marketing initiatives, presents all webinars throughout the U.S. and is responsible for all sales staff training. We have Stacy Jordan. Stacy is with Pepco, a senior energy efficiency program manager at Pepco Holdings, has been an integral part of the company since 2014. Throughout her tenure, she has taken on diverse roles within the organization. Stacy's main responsibility lies in overseeing and executing energy efficiency programs in Pepco Holdings Maryland territory. Our efforts not only assist customers in conserving energy and reducing costs, but also contribute to the company's regulatory objectives. And we're also welcoming with us today, Nardo Aponte. Here, Nardo. See, I should have introduced myself to you more carefully. Nardo is the Regional Plant Operation Director here at the Seneca. And if you haven't been here before, take a walk around. It's an unbelievable facility, and they've been kind enough to host a number of our events here. And they put out about the best spread we've had in the morning, including a lot of healthy stuff. And he will be speaking on the experience here at the Seneca of going green, which is important to all of us. So with that said, what I'm going to ask each member of the panel to do is briefly talk about their role in energy and helping you, or in your case, talking about going green. So let me start with you, since I held up your introduction.
Sure. Thanks. Again, my name is Nardo. I am a regional director of operations with Greystone Communities. It's been a pleasure to be part of not only this community, but also part of Greystone. I had the opportunity to speak with one of the buildings designers in several capacities. And I was amazed on the effort that the owners or partners put into turning this building pretty much green. We are a LEED silver building, and I'm proud to say that. And it's all about saving our resources. It's all about using wisely our resources. And I'm sure you're gonna have the opportunity to speak more after my panelists also gave their introductions.
Why don't we just go down the line? Go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Margie, for inviting me today. Really appreciate being here. Stephen Morrell with the Montgomery County Green Bank. I've been in energy finance for a couple decades now, mostly doing international work. This was the first role I actually took at a local level, and I don't know that I ever go back. There's a lot of interesting things to do in the county with energy efficiency, clean energy, climate resilience, and we help finance those. So basically, the idea of a green bank is that we are a public-private partnership. It's kind of a funny institution because we're not a real bank. We don't take deposits. We don't have an ATM. But the moniker is important because we work with banks to draw in their capital and help businesses, residents get projects done. So we can do that in a couple different ways. And I know we'll go into more to our programs that we have, but we offer technical assistance. We offer financing programs. Again, really just to try and get projects done. So thanks for having me today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Tavlin with CQI Associates. We're an energy management and consulting firm. We actually provide the chamber and the chamber members a chamber member benefit, which is lowering your energy rates. We do aggregated buying pools. We do it for the home. We do it for the business. We do it for natural gas. We do it for electric. You name it, we do it. And the bottom line is providing everybody with the proper information, the proper knowledge, so that they can make a decision that's right for them, their family, and their business. And you're learning more about that.
Good morning. My name is Stacey Jordan, and I am the Senior Program Manager with Pepco Holdings. Thank you very much for the invitation. In my role, I am a part of the commercial and industrial team under energy efficiency. There are multiple programs under the CNI portfolio. However, I'm responsible for the small business program and the energy efficiency communities programs. Our communities programs have a focus towards municipalities, while small business focuses on just that, small businesses. And we also offer a small business energy advance, which is a 0% interest loan that we can go more into as we talk throughout the panel. But that's my responsibility and my position. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Now, in the email that you received, we promised you're going to learn some things today. So the first thing we wanted to touch on, and we'll let each of you go and respond to this in your own way, is we've got 4 different views of all this. First is learn how to save money at your business by introducing energy savings improvements that can reduce your operating costs. So in whatever order you'd like to go, if you want to go first, and I know you've in greening, you've discovered some of this.
Yeah, sure. So being a LEED silver facility or community, and all of our 3 facilities in Northern Virginia and Maryland are also LEED certified. So it's all about being responsible and being good stewards with the environment. So as you can see around, you can tell that all of our windows are pretty much from bottom to ceiling windows. They're low emissivity windows. They have insulation. All of our walls are also insulated to keep the building envelope always at a comfortable temperature. Speaking of resources, water savings, I was amazed when I came in pre-construction, and I saw that there was not going to be any irrigation system in this whole footprint of the building. And I started asking questions, and the landscaping designer put together native plants all around this building, which not only helps with water savings, but also helps with keeping the grounds cleaner and the grounds greener as well. I can speak to also our HVAC system, which is state-of-the-art, cutting-edge technology HVAC system. The make-up air design of the building is so efficient that you don't have to put that much energy into it. It actually recycles the temperature inside the building envelope, and it just by little triggers on the condensing side of the compressors, it just keeps it cool when it needs to be cool and keeps it warm when it needs to be warm. So if we're speaking about being responsible and cost saving, just making a comparison of what a non-lead solar building will be paying, we're saving more than 30% in energy costs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always tell people I like trees, especially when it's gonna be this hot out soon. I like bugs, but I'm not a tree hugger. At the end of the day, it's about saving money. It's about bottom line. So there is an economic value proposition to investing in clean energy. And there are people that don't quite get that. And so we as the Green Bank start there. And we offer educational programs. We try and participate in wonderful events like this and really help people recognize that. But of course, the proof is in the pudding. You can hear from, great properties like this one, what you're actually saving, and that's huge. So there's an economic value proposition. Furthermore, there's a proposition to utilize financing strategies, and we try and help educate the market with that as well. If you think that you may not have money up front to be able to invest into activities, financing strategies is a no upfront capital solution. And if you're making a savings on the long term, you can actually utilize those savings to then pay your debt service. So on a net basis, you're still gaining. So we think financing strategies are important as well. If you combine those two together, people often say, well, where do I go then? What do I do? I buy in, but how do I actually proceed from here? And the answer is really talk to any one of the panelists here. There are a lot of incentives out there. There are a lot of incentives that the state offers, Montgomery County offers, the federal government offers. There's financing options. We try and braid all of those together into a financing strategy, into a funding strategy that then helps you really save the big bucks over the long run. So we've had an opportunity to do that now on a pretty accelerated basis. When I first started at the Green Bank, we were just getting started on investments. We had a couple million worth of investments. We're now just crossing 100 million, and this has been over 4 years. So these have not been, big $100 million projects. These have been properties like this one, properties that and businesses all around the county that are trying to do energy efficiency, building envelope, HVAC systems, lighting, conversions to LEDs, adding controls to their buildings, all those great things that save energy. Small properties doing renewable energy, putting up solar on their rooftop and small projects like that. So these are all important and they aggregate to meet environmental goals. Again, the environmental goals are key to why we were commissioned. But at the end of the day, it's about bottom line. So we try and help with that.
Everybody needs to learn ways of reducing their consumption. And it seems like everybody looks at the major things, air conditioning, humidity, lighting, things of that nature, and they're all very important and they definitely can save you money. But you have to look at all the little things as well, because they will add up. Motion detectors in the bathroom. That way the light's not on all the time. A motion detection, or a motion detector, I should say, at your exit hallway. You've got an emergency exit area, and you are by the fire department, you need to have it lit. But only when somebody's in that hallway. To put a motion detector in there, that way the light is not on all the time. It's not necessary. Make sure you're using thermostats properly. Making sure you have timers on your outside lights. If you have a drop ceiling, check the drop ceiling and see if you have a crack in it. If you have a crack or a chip in it, guess where the heat and AC is going? It's going up into the ceiling. That's wasting money. My advice would be for a business or a home, take one room at a time and evaluate everything. Evaluate the installation on the windows and the doors in the room. If you're not using that room at all, shut it down, close the vents, close the door. No sense in putting energy in there if you're not going to be utilizing. Unplug things that you're not using all the time. If you have a lunchroom or at your home, if you have a toaster you use maybe once a month, unplug it. Anything that's plugged in, whether you have it turned on or not, is still drawing power. And people have to keep that in mind. It's the little things that will add up. One little story I can give you, many years ago, I had a condo in Ocean City. It was November, I got a $50 bill. Now, in today's world, that would be a $350 bill, okay? I went down there to find out what was going on. I had two things plugged in, the refrigerator and the microwave. I unplugged the microwave and reduced the bill in half. Now, I'm not telling anybody to unplug your microwave. That's crazy. Now, every time you turn around, because you use it all the time. But if you understand the amount of energy each unit in your business or in your home uses, then you can really reduce it down. Don't run your computers all night long or put it into sleep mode. If you don't need to, unplug them, turn them off at the end of the day. It's things like that. There is a lot of good tips that people can get from Pepco's website and other utilities' website, or you can reach out to the chamber or us CQI. I'll be more than happy to give you tips specifically for your business or for your home.
I definitely want to piggyback on what you're saying in terms of the small measures that we don't focus on. But I will start off by saying overall, in the small business program, our overall goal is to help you improve your bottom line. And one of the projects, one of the services that we provide is called a quick energy checkup. So we will have our service provider come out, do an evaluation of your property, and they'll advise you of the low cost, no cost measures that will definitely help you improve your bottom line. In addition to improving your HVAC units, your commercial equipment, lighting. Lighting is definitely one of our biggest measures, but we offer incentives across the board. And with this new empowerment filing that recently came out at the beginning of the year, the incentives have gotten better, and then there are more options in terms of where you can incentivize. So it's not just lighting anymore. It's not the focus on the HVAC units, but I highly recommend a quick energy checkup. It's not required, but it definitely gives you a start to where to begin. It gives you indication on how to start decreasing that dollar value. So.
I second.
And it is, again, if you have any questions, it's on our website under energy savings. But again, just to plug it in, it's called a quick energy checkup.
Great ideas already. I'm coming right back at you, so get ready, Stacy.
Okay.
So we're gonna find out now about free funds and low-cost financing to undertake these improvements. Learn what Pepco has available as incentives for your business and what other programs are offered in the county to support costs not covered by the incentives.
Under the empowerment program, Pepco has a variety of programs. Again, I'm focused on commercial and industrial for small business and energy efficiency communities. However, we have programs under residential. We have a prescriptives program. So let me give you just a little bit of background. For small business, our focus is on businesses that use 100 kilowatts or less. If you do not fit that scheme of things, there's an additional program. So there are levels and layers to the various programs. You have the prescriptives, you have the medium to large, midstream, custom programs. The bonus to being a customer under the small business program, we offer the small business energy advance. That is a 0% interest loan. We pay up to 80% of the incentives, and it allows you as the customer to pay off your project within 2 years. You get the option of 6 months, 12 months, or 24 months, which is actually not bad at a 0% interest rate. Only qualification is you have to meet the 100 kilowatts or less. Other than that, we refer you to Green Bank and members of the community that have other options.
Anyone else want to? That was a bad mistake. Everybody's awake now. That's it, right? Anybody else want to comment on that piece before we move on? So let's have you talk about what CQI can do for folks in the chamber.
Well, everybody, I think, by now understands that they have the capability of shopping for their energy supply, either natural gas or electricity. And there's about 30 or 40 registered suppliers that you can find on the utilities website. When you vet them, and what I mean by vetting them, making sure that they are legitimate, there's no hidden agenda, that their prices are fixed, there's no pass-throughs, things of that nature. It basically comes down to about 13 different vendors are out there. That's still a lot. You can call each and every one of them. You can put onto a spreadsheet all their different programs they have available. You can then go out and analyze to your heart's content, the U.S. Department of Energy, weather reports, all the dominoes that we're looking at as well. And then at the end of the day, select which one is going to be best for you. Problem is, you're still leaving money on the table. Because as an individual business or individual homeowner, you don't have the same buying power as, let's say, Walmart. The Chamber's program, working on the principle of aggregated buying pools, we collectively take energy usage, members of close to 28 chambers of commerce. Now we got buying power. We go out on your behalf and we shop everybody and we negotiate and get a rate lower than what you can get on your own. It doesn't cost anything. It's totally free. The annual savings that somebody will see equals or highest 1 month bill. Now, this is regardless of whether I'm talking about home, we're talking about a business. Usually your electricity bill in July and your gas bill in February, if you look at that bottom dollar, total supply and distribution, that total cost, that's your minimum annual savings you'll see by working under our program. You have to keep in mind that we've had, believe it or not, almost a 55% increase in energy costs in the last 2 years. How many businesses can afford that increase? How many homes can afford that increase? You're not seeing an increase in your pay. You're not having more customers coming in and paying more money. You pass on as much as you can, but you got to find ways of reducing it down. We're doing all the work for you. We're analyzing everything. We're actually going 3 years out, analyzing the market and all the different variables. Now, a lot of folks don't understand when I mean variables, you're thinking, okay, inventory of the energy and the weather. Well, that's 2 factors. But both of the wars that are going on, they contribute. The presidential election, that contributes. The stock market, that contributes. The weather, definitely, especially when they're now calling for the largest hurricane season this year, and they just reported this morning a tropical storm off of Florida. I can't remember the last time we had a hurricane this early. It's things like that. You have a busy life. You have a busy work schedule. You don't have time to be spending hours upon hours on the phone calling folks. Let us do it. Let us take and make sure that every stone is turned and there's no money left on the table.
I won't make that same mistake again, I promise you. Steve, tell us a little bit more about what Green Bank can do. And by the way, you may be aware we are recording this, so we're going to have a lot of people watching this who have great interest in the kinds of programs you can offer to businesses in particular.
Yeah, that's great. Well, no, that's good to hear. I mean, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think that the hardest thing to do is for everybody to figure out where to start, whether you're a resident, whether you're a business. And so figuring out where to start means that you should really be evaluating your property. You should really be evaluating what your goals are, because people's goals are also relatively different. And so we try and also help with that. If you're a resident, we actually do push people over to the Home Performance with Energy Star and other programs that can really get you started on a single property evaluation. But most of our programs are on the commercial side, because again, we see a lot of different goals and objectives out there. So we have a technical assistance program, which is really the place to start with the Green Bank. We have a series of service providers that all provide great evaluations from the perspective of actuary energy audits to feasibility studies to owner's engineer kind of representation. We have one of our better service providers here that does electrification work, and we've done 5 great projects recently on EV infrastructure, charging infrastructure. So it's really kind of figuring out what do you want to do first. And so we'll pay for those service providers. We'll subsidize that amount that they would cost to be able to do those kinds of assessments. And that's kind of step one. You then get a plan. And what we try and do as a green bank, since we're a financing entity, is really say, well, here's how you can actually execute that plan. Here are financing strategies, here are incentives that you can get from the utilities, from Maryland Energy Association, from other state entities, from federal government. Here's how your tax incentives would work. If you're doing a bunch of energy efficiency work and you need to understand Section 179D, how you're going to change your basis as you report what you're doing, or you're going to get the investment tax credit or the production tax credit, will help you understand what that looks like with your cash flow. And that's kind of critical as well to figure it out. And then what we do as a financing entity is we kind of fill in the gaps. We say, well, if your project was too expensive and you have to bring down the cost of capital, or if there's a credit issue where none of the banks are taking up financing your transaction, we can come in and offer various pieces. So we offer financing across the entire spectrum of what you could imagine you would need, from short-term bridge loans all the way to very long-term financing. We can go up to 30 years in our financing structures. We work with what's called CPACE, Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy, where you can actually tie a loan to the tax repayment that you do, or the tax payments that you do on property taxes. So you're tied in with that on your repayment, and that then lives with the property. So you as a business can move on and actually sell that property with the CPACE loan to the next person, and it doesn't stick with you. It wasn't based off of your own individual credit. So we have a lot of different options there. But the idea is really, how do you start by figuring out what to do? I recommend everybody come to our website. There's contact information. I'll leave my contact information here as well. info@ncgreenbank.org is our general email address that everybody can reach, and then we can take it from there.
Nardo, do you want to add anything in the comments to what you just heard from these panelists?
Oh, sure, yeah. The bottom line here is well-being of our seniors. Us as operators, we're very much interested in having our population, who is a senior population, being comfortable, cost-effective measures to keep the rates that they're paying every month down. You mentioned that energy costs have been increasing 53% in the last 2 years, not to mention food costs. Our monthly fees are not even near close to that increase. So being energy efficient, it's part of that equation that makes us being successful in the long run. So I definitely recommend out there are so many smart devices. There are so many options for going green, for going efficient. It's going to lower your costs. Maybe the upfront costs are going to be maybe a lot to you, but the incentives and grants that are given in return are going to pay out for those smart decisions that you can make in the long run.
I've said this several times. Somebody here might remember the commercial for somebody. I don't remember who it was. It was, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Well, a lot of these programs you pay now, but you save an enormous amount of money in the long run. So that's important to bear in mind. So one of the other prompts I had here, and we touched on this a lot, but maybe you want to add something to it. Explore how you can take steps to reduce your carbon footprint, help Montgomery County reach its public goal to substantially reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And obviously you're doing a wonderful job there. Any other than the windows and everything else, which I'm fascinated by.
Windows, HVAC. So think about the 4 elements. 4 elements are air, water, earth, and sun. We're not going to touch the sun, right? So let's speak about lighting. So if you are responsible in using well those resources, of course you're going to achieve a green building. Our community is pretty much green. Our community is pretty much energy efficient. Not only this community, but also of other communities, and the ones that are coming along in the near future, they're also going to stay green.
Wonderful. Stephen, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, early on, I think we were talking about the accumulation of small measures can be very important. And I absolutely agree with that. But one thing that you'll see is you're thinking about savings, those measures that you can conduct at a property that have the highest level of savings. It is typically associated with the fact that they have the highest offset to carbon emissions as well. Because if you're paying for electricity, for example, or you're paying for therms from gas and you save all of that, well, the bigger the savings, that means the more of those you're saving or offsetting out of the environment. So we always do a calculation of everything that we do. If you go to our website, mcgreenbank.org, you can kind of see a running calculator of the greenhouse gas emissions that are saved and that's mostly carbon, but other GHGs as well. And these all just stem from all of the projects that we were talking about here. So I encourage everybody to kind of do that diagnostic of both the big measures as well as the small measures that kind of can aggregate to be very big and have that effect. And you'll notice that as you make improvements on them and you're actually saving dollars and cents, you're also actually offsetting a lot.
Joe,
A lot of people think that when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions, it's only the big boys that we need to worry about. It's each and every one of us, whether it's a home, whether it's a business, small or large. Yes, there is a state law and county laws that require certain size businesses, school systems, municipalities that have to reduce a certain level of greenhouse gases by a certain time. But everybody needs to look at it. And one of the things that a lot of people forget or don't realize that when we're talking about carbon offsets, it's not just the building itself, it's your vehicles as well. Take a service department that has a dozen vehicles out on the road. That is causing carbon emissions. And when they are looking at your particular building or a particular business, they're taking that into account. And if you don't take it into account, then you underestimate what your obligations are and you can get penalized. So you have to look at everything. So as a business, take advantage of everything that's available that's out there to reduce your emissions down. But keep in mind, vehicles is another one to also look at.
Stacy,
Yes, I agree with what everyone has said here, but I'd also like to share that there's been an amendment to the 2024 empowerment filing. As a matter of fact, my management team is at a hearing this morning. So please note that the focus towards greenhouse gas is definitely going to change and affect the incentives that we offer. And I wish I had more to share, but coming soon, stay close. It will affect the small business program in addition to the residential programs. The focus is definitely there, and we're going to do everything that we can as a utility to make sure we're in step so that you do benefit from the new greenhouse gas policy.
Yeah. And it is on all of us. A year or two ago, it was suggested I might get a thermostat that was programmable. I don't need it because I live alone. I left this morning, I put my thermostat at 82. And when I get in, it's a little warm, but within an hour or two, you know, I get it down. And I think that's a lot of us have to learn to do that sort of thing, just individually. That's important. So the last prompt I have here, and we've touched on a lot of this, but I'll ask it anyway, and ask Stacy to comment it further if you have any further comments. Learn how to create a roadmap for greening your operations and enhancing employee engagement. I think that last piece is also very important.
In terms of creating a roadmap, we don't want you to just check in, have a quick energy checkup, have some upgrades done. There's a follow-up to the process. So every 2 to 3 years, we recommend that the service provider comes back out. Make sure there aren't any changes to the regulations to stay consistent as a customer, to make sure you are seeing the savings. So communication is definitely key. Staying in contact and staying on top of it. It's not one and done. Follow-up is very important.
Joe.
Well, a lot of people, it's crazy when you think about it. Asking or creating incentives for our staff or our family to do something that we should automatically do, which is reducing our energy costs, or at least watching what we're doing. I have kids, you know, And you have them, be playing video games and they'll play for all hours of the day and then they'll walk away and the thing's still running. Or the air conditioning, they're too warm, so they'll turn the air conditioning down to 60 degrees, then they go outside. It's crazy stuff like that, and it comes to all of us working together. When it comes to a business, a couple of things you need to do, just like we've all spoken here today. Implement the ways of reducing your expenses either through lowering the rate or your level of consumption, but continually follow up. Evaluate your monthly bills. You can always send the bills to us. We can evaluate. I had one the other day that there was a 700% spike in their bill over a 30-day period. And I pointed it out to them. They didn't know that that was happening. Come to find out their air conditioning unit was not functioning properly. And if that wasn't checked, their bill would have been astronomical over these next 4 or 5 months. So we analyze the bills. That's not a problem. If you want to happy to do that. But you should also do it as well to make sure that you don't have any spikes that you're not aware of. You should have either one person or a person from each department be in charge of evaluating the thermostat, especially in an office complex. So many times you'll have somebody walk up and change the thermostat. You tell them, don't change it, leave it the way it is, but they'll go ahead and change it. So have one person assigned. You can also set up a contest between departments, between the administrative department, the manufacturing division, who can save the most energy. And the bonus could be lunch for everybody, something of that nature. You can afford it because you're lowering how much usage you have that much or that month. So you can afford to give them lunch, but there's incentives you can do. You can do the same incentives at home with your kids, with your wife, with your husband. It's taking the attitude of not stopping after you've implemented one program. Continue watching it. Otherwise, it'll come back where you're not seeing the results that you thought you were going to see because you thought just because you signed a contract that it's all done, or you got funding and it's all done. No, you have to do continuous communication and continuous follow-up on that. And there's plenty of people, besides me and everybody here at this panel, if you have any questions, any concerns, please reach out. We'll be more than happy to help or to point you in the right direction.
Chief.
Yeah, I think that we've heard a lot about how to do an individual plan for residents or for businesses, and I agree with everything that's been said. But you raise a really good point to kind of keep in mind the supply chain of everything that you're using. And just to give you a funny little story about 14 years ago, the biggest environmental impact project I ever did was actually financing a big petrochemical project, which utilizes a lot of gas and people kind of raised their eyebrow and said, well, how is that actually reducing GHGs? Every 5 years, they would take off a gas flare that they had in this country that we were doing this, and methane is a much more potent GHG than carbon dioxide. And on a net basis, it was the biggest production of GHGs that I've ever done in my entire life in one project. It's the supply chain that you think about. And you raised a really good point that a competitive advantage these days for your customers and your employees is to have a very energy efficient place. The kids these days, they love to kind of walk the talk, to be able to access places from a public transportation basis, to be able to save energy. We were working with a business that had a live feed of what it was saving based off of some renewable energy measures that it had installed. And people love this. They were actually attracting new talent out of MIT and all these places that would normally stay in the Boston area down here to Silver Spring because they had an energy efficient place that people really felt like they were part of an important culture. They were attracting top talent to be able to come because they were really talking the walk. So it's important. It's important for your workforce. It's important for your customers. customers will take a look at the entire supply chain of what's coming? Or do I want to order this thing that has the, carbon efficient approach? Or do I want to order it from somebody else that's not that, if price is not, going to be too indistinguishable between the two? So it's important, it's good for business, it's good for the general economy effect, all of the ripple effects put on that supply chain. So I agree with that completely.
Nardo.
Yeah, speaking of employee engagement, our communities are very active at see something, say something. And that's not only in the matters pertaining an endangered resident or family member. It's also about malfunctioning systems in the building. So we've had talks with our staff throughout all the communities, letting them know if you see a flickering light, please let the maintenance team know. If you feel like the temperature is not right in the common areas where you are stationed, please let the maintenance team know. If you hear running water in a toilet or inside a bathroom, please let us know so we can tackle that immediately. That has dramatically given them a sense of ownership and accountability in our facilities, and they're proud to participate in those programs. We can definitely, hearing at my panelists here, we can definitely implement incentives for the task force of our facilities, like sharing the savings that we've had on a fiscal year, and giving it out to our employees at the end of the year, because they've also helped us on being cost effective.
Yeah, very good points. The comment about people, particularly younger people, looking for businesses that operate that way. Fortunately, I raised my children carefully, and they're very careful about energy. And they have commented to me about the same thing you're talking about. One of the things I want to comment about Pepco, I'm wondering how many people here, other than me, because I do it every month. When you get your Pepco bill, do you look at the second page? You know what I'm referring to? Shows you usage each day, shows peak and off peak. And it's caused me to focus. I don't run my dishwasher, my washer, my dryer, if I don't have to, other than off peak, makes a huge difference. And there's just little things, and I bet you most people don't even look at that. Now, do we have any questions from the folks out there? Trent always has a question. I knew that.
I was interested, Stacy, the energy checks, and I know you do commercial, but is there a cost for residents to have an energy check?
It is not. So you call, you make your appointment, they come out, they actually bring some incentives with them, like the power strips, but it is a free energy checkup on the business side as well as the residential side. You're welcome.
I knew you only had one, but you had a great one. And that's something that's important for everybody to know. I bet you, again, the vast majority of people don't know that. Do we have any other comments or questions from anyone? Margie?
Joe, CQI, what's a big win that a business had saved? I know you mentioned one time there was one of the chambers, one of the companies saved a huge amount of money.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that save money. One example, we have at one of the chambers, a small manufacturer, and we save them roughly $29,000 every year. They use a lot of energy. The average, like I said, the best way to determine what your savings is going to be is look at what your highest month bill is for the entire year. Generally, what you'll find is that for like a small office, a small retailer, $2,500 to $3,500 a year is the minimum savings. Small church is like $8,000 a year. And you have to keep in mind those figures that I'm throwing out there are from calculations of historical data prior to the last 2 years. Now, you can just imagine what the savings could be now for everybody because of what we're able to get from third-party suppliers compared to what you're paying through the utility company. Nothing wrong with the utility company. But the savings is definitely there. And for chamber members, 99.9% of the time, it covers the chamber membership dues. And when when you're looking at a membership in an organization that has such incredible benefits to a business, especially small business and nonprofits, and it's not gonna cost them anything, by utilizing the energy co-op, it's a win-win situation.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Jerry?
My background has been transportation and planning, but again, in terms of what we're trying to achieve, the zoning or someone wanting to do something efficient or solar panels, et cetera, there's some pushback from abutting property owners. So from the standpoint of the state and the county, does that facilitate what you're trying to achieve? That would be one question.
Unfortunately, in this world, we always get pushback. It doesn't matter what it is. I live on the Eastern Shore, and the major pushback has been on the offshore wind. That's been going on for years. With everything that's out there, everybody has good intentions. But at the same time, you have folks out there that are steadfast of keeping everything the way it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it doesn't work anymore. And until people realize that, we're continually going to have pushback. The pushback isn't as much as it has been in the past. People are starting to come around, especially when they're experiencing the weather conditions that we're having. I mean, I grew up in Maryland. I don't remember ever having 5 tornadoes land in the same day. I don't remember having a tornado for almost a year, if that at all. It's almost commonplace now. Having the temperature go from 70 degrees to 90 degrees in 24 hours, I don't remember that. A lot of people don't. And that realization of things that are changing in our environment, and we need to do something about it, is causing people to change their thoughts, that there is less pushback.
But my second question was kind of maybe Pepco. You have to buy energy, you try to make a profit on it, your profit stock company. How do you deal with that, rationalize that in terms of bringing in and then making a profit on what you're doing? How do you rationalize that?
No, honestly, I can't respond to that. That's more on a regulatory side. I don't know how they.
But I mean, do the regulations then that state provides or local or even federal, does it facilitate you to be more efficient, Steve, for your users?
Well, definitely for our users. So with us being a part of the Empower program, there are targets and goals set for us. So we have to be conscious. We really have to focus in capturing the savings that are set before us, as well as providing a service to the customer at the same time. So it's a happy medium, if you will, that's not always so happy. However, we want to be in business, but we want the customer to be happy, and we have to abide by the rules and the regulations that are set forth by the commission.
So you're doing a good job. Our last question, someone just raised it, but talk about young people. Is there any effort within the schools? I know the schools are busy. My wife does substitute teaching. There's issues with the kids paying attention. They're on their devices the whole time. But is there any education to the next generation coming in, or?
Just quickly want to jump to your last question. The regulatory environment from local, state, federal level is changing dramatically, and that everybody in those environments hears what the concerns potentially could be, and they're accommodating for them. So the state, for example, has a renewable portfolio standard, and that renewable portfolio standard has a penalty for non-compliance with it, and that penalty rate that they've set to it has actually established a market for carbon trading. So now if you put up solar panels, you'll be able to sell the carbon off of it at this rate. It's like a bonus to the offset that you're going to get out there. The Empower program, putting incentives out is really going to help the utilities meet the regulatory goals that the state has set. So of course it's in their interest to be able to help everybody save as much as possible, because then they can meet those standards that are being set. And it's the same with the tax credits as well. Tax credits exist only because there's a push at the federal level to be able to make sure that there's more development in the industry. So what may be considered kind of a regulatory push or threats out there are actually opportunities for upside from an economic basis. So we always try and help people kind of view towards those. To your other question, we work a lot with the public school system. We just actually did a project on 25 different schools, an entire overhaul of a lot of deferred maintenance and other pieces. We worked with some big national financial institutions to do some municipal finance offerings. This has actually been deferred maintenance for like 20 years at the schools as well, but they'll save a lot of energy. And they have done a really good job incorporating the students in everything they do in terms of education. Schools have societies and groups to be able to have kids, be part of these programs, to understand what it means to be energy efficient, or what it means to benefit the climate. There was a big event that we got an opportunity to do, with your colleague Will Ellis over at Pepco, at one of the schools where they were putting in an urban garden. They had 1,000 volunteers, school kids that were there, doing this. So they're very heavily involved, and it's important. We try and also demonstrate that from a workforce development perspective. They have some of the contractors we work with, particularly on the technical assistance side, offer lessons of, what are the jobs in the solar industry? What are the jobs in X, Y, or Z? And we've had good partnerships with Montgomery College and other places to do that. So it's important, and I've been pleasantly surprised how interested students are in obtaining that information.
Great,
Thank you both. Thank you.
Yes,
I have, thank you for this information. I have a quick comment and I actually have two questions. My one comment is we now have in my family an electric vehicle, obviously have to do that. Well, we need to charge it overnight unless for some reason. And I followed this thing for 20 years. You can't believe we should cut out of your bill, pay attention. But, electric and a plug-in hybrid. So, getting these sort of savings is actually even better because you're actually using more electricity, right? You're not going to the gas station, but you are using more electricity. So I want to say that one, I think for you, Joe, with CGI, you can choose if you get, maybe you said this, but renewable energy, or you get, regular energy, which, could be renewable or could be any kind of mix. And I think sometimes it's a little more expensive to get just the renewable, but you can choose that. Is that correct?
That is correct. With all third-party suppliers, they're going to have two programs. They're going to have the basic program, which would be 20 to 25% renewable energy sources as one of the contributors to that energy supply. That's going to give you the lowest rate available to you. The other option is 100% renewable energy, which a lot of people really want. It doesn't save that much for folks, bottom line, as far as money in pocket, but does save trees. So you have a choice of which way you want to go.
But that's nice because people can choose that sort of an option. And then the last question that I had, at some point relatively soon, we need to get solar panels, but I'm waiting to replace the roof, obviously. Do any of you have any programs that deal with that? Or, it's fine if you don't, because
What do you
obviously,
mean by programs? You talking about?
like incentives,
well, or help figuring
tax
out.
breaks.
No, the incentives, could be incentives, but also there's a lot of choices.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of contractors that we work with, particularly to start with an assessment at the right time. Like you said, typically if you can tie putting solar up with a roof replacement, that's the best time to do it. But even if not, how do you pay for it? The first decision to make is whether you want to actually own the panels or rent the panels. The rent the roof model, power purchase agreements or capital leases, works for a lot of people, meaning that a developer owns the panel and they basically just rent the space and then they give you the power from it. And so that's a model that works for a lot of the customers that we work with, particularly like nonprofits, small businesses, condo associations that don't really have the time to do the operations and upkeep of panels and just want to say, okay, there's somebody else, there's a developer that's managing it. Your savings are not going to be, or your economic return over the long run is not going to be as good, but you save a lot of hassle. So that's kind of the first decision point that we help people with, is whether you want to actually rent or you want to own the panels. We work with a lot of installers that we find to be reputable. We do kind of a QA/QC process on an ongoing basis because there's also a lot that are not reputable out there. So we try and help, with that guidance as well. So we always tell people when you want to undertake a solar project, reach out and then we can kind of ask those questions of where do you stand, what type of model makes sense, and then who to connect you with to actually get it done.
So if we're a homeowner, can we at least get the information on which companies are reputable?
Yeah, so on our website, you can see the ones that we recommend already. They're up there if you type in solar and you'll see all of the residential solar contractors, but again, just reach out and we can connect you with individual ones as well.
Because it's a new thing. My understanding is Maryland is second in the nation in terms of how good the incentives are for solar next to DC, is that correct?
There's different types of incentives. The type of carbon trading that I was talking about in DC is the best in the world, but it's by magnitudes. Unfortunately, we don't get it unless you're on, there's some feeder lines that come into like Tacoma Park or Silver Spring. You can get that benefit for that carbon trading. That's what everyone talks about as the benefit of doing solar in DC. But otherwise, no, they're relatively marginal. There's some grant programs. They're not going to cover all of the cost. There's still a lot of upfront cost of doing solar, but that's why we see a lot of people looking at either the rental option or loans.
Or solar farms.
Yeah, one thing to say, in addition to kind of the fact that you can go and purchase different types of electricity from suppliers, there's a lot of projects that we call community solar around here. And for those that don't actually have the capability to put solar up on their building, they're in an apartment or their roof just doesn't handle it. Pepco or any of the utilities allow you within that utility zone to set up a solar project and then sell subscriptions out to people. So on our website, we also have this that you can buy a subscription, meaning that you're going to offset a certain amount that's generated from that solar project, even if it's not on your property. And typically those are set to be about a 10% discount to what you otherwise would pay. Community solar is wonderful. We love community solar. We have 4 projects that we financed recently. A couple of them are full up on subscription, but others are still open. So they provide a lot of benefit.
That's awesome. So you're saying that you have enough savings potentially with all these programs to pay for your chamber membership or just to do that. Plus you can also do a lot of good. So these are all 100% win things.
Absolutely.
I like it.
I thought it was a good summer.
Absolutely. All right, so
Follow up on that, you talk about the solar farms. Is there a zoning issue there, changing that? That was kind of my earlier question. Is there resistance to do that or?
Generally, I mean, there's resistance to everything. The community solar program in Maryland limits individual projects to 2 megawatts. That's relatively small. You get more efficiencies or economies of scale the bigger you get, but that's still a lot of subscriptions. The former landfill, and the name is escaping me, Oaks, or can't remember the landfill. They built 3 community solar projects. There's about 1,000 subscriptions available. So, you can end up getting enough kind of economies of scale, but there's always better zoning that you could think about. One of the biggest prohibitions in Montgomery County is that everybody got gung-ho about building community solar in the ag reserve. And then the ag reserve folks pulled back and said, well, we really want to maintain, certain types of soil to be able to do farming. So then that was kind of a limitation. We've financed 2 projects in the ag reserve that are on acceptable soil, but that certainly pulled back what developers were looking at.
this has been outstanding. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to ask each, starting with Stacy, just give us a minute or so. This is not a presidential debate, so I'm not going to cut off your mic at 1 minute, but just give us a brief closing, any comments you'd like to make, and we'll come right down the line.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for having me out and for inviting Pepco to be a part of this panel. If you are interested, if you have any questions, you can not only go to our website, we do have a customer service number that you can dial. I'm more than happy to share my information with you. I am open to emails. We can come out and talk to you, send a service provider your way. But I highly encourage you to look into our small business program. Again, not only is it beneficial, but we do have that 0% loan program that will allow you to pay up to 2 years, so,
And Stacy
That's
has some
really about it.
handouts there in front of her as you leave.
so yeah.
You were respectful of that minute, I appreciate it.
Yes, you can reach out, and I encourage you to reach out, to me. You can get a hold of me either from cards I'll have here or through the Chamber's website. The key is to remember, we're not the folks that are out there banging the doors off the wall or ringing the phone out of your hand. We don't do any of that stuff. We're here to give you information. We're here to find out the best pricing that we can get for you, and you decide whether you want to pull the trigger or not. It's that simple. But don't sit back and let everything go by the wayside. And every time you get your utility bill, you complain. You have no reason to complain at that point because you have all the answers in your hands at this point. One thing I will point out is that in the last couple of weeks, a new law was put into effect, or a new bill, I should say, was just signed, that as of January of 2025, for residential customers, there's about 2,500 independent reps that are out in the state. They're going to be going by lights. You are only going to be able to do a 1-year agreement. It can't be at a rate higher than the utility. It can't be an auto renewal. It can't be a variable rate. And that's going to really protect our seniors and the low income families, besides all of us here, which is all a plus. We're actually a part of getting that bill passed. So there's always changes, but it's for your benefit.
I would just close by saying, properties and everybody's individual goals, either as a resident or a business, are definitely like snowflakes. They're very independent of each other. And so there may be common measures that a lot of service providers can provide, but it really starts with an assessment of figuring out what to do. And so, reaching out to any of the folks here on terms of, where to start, I think is always the best step. So that's where I would close. You can always find us at info@mcgreenbank.org. I'll leave some cards here. We're on the chamber website. Definitely reach out, and really any question, any type of renewable energy, energy efficiency, climate resilience measures, which we didn't really get into too much here, but infrastructure measures to help build your resilience to weather events, just go ahead and shoot us an email. So thank you.
Well, I would like to close off saying that it's been an absolute pleasure to, as a community, be hosting this event here. Let's do it more in the months to come. Greystone Communities, in partnership with our development partners, Silverstone Senior Living, we are putting a tremendous effort in designing and building facilities just to be good stewards of this planet. Not only to be compliant with state regulations, but we go even far beyond and being greener as we can. So thank you very much for the opportunity of being a panelist today, and thanks for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you all. Wonderful, thank you. I've been to these panels before. I learned more today than I have in all the others combined. We're gonna push this video out to the entire membership. Anybody who's not here should hear everything you've had to tell us. Margie, you want to make any announcements? That's a first.